France is not paradise, but it's not hell on earth either. Like most places in the world, it's all the same, with few inconveniences here and there, with upsides and trade-offs. One last stupid little quote before we get into the meat and potatoes of this video. The grass is... We have a thing when we're humans, is that we always think that the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. We always think that the other country has something good that we don't have here. And then we miss that thing from the other country when we're in that very country. When we're in that very same country. We miss the thing of the other country. That's kind of what I want to talk about today. And I want to talk about France. And I want to talk about the people who are wanting to decide to move to France. And generally, my target audience for this specific video would be young people, maybe thinking about to go into the college in France, thinking about going to the Sorbonne. I mispronounced it on purpose. Or, people for other reasons wanting to move to France. And it is a beautiful country filled with history, but also it has various different problems, and I want to talk about those problems. So first of all is, I imagine that you're coming from the US. If you're coming from Europe, this part of the video does not really apply to you. But in France, it's not a fucking communistic nation, but it is a lot more of a socialistic nation as opposed to other countries. It's not something where everybody's going to tell you what to do. There's no fucking breadlines, but there is still that element of not as much as you can do. You can do whatever business you want. There's a lot more regulations there. You need to have a specific document to sell a specific thing. You need a lot of legal procedures in order to continue. As opposed to the US, I think there are a lot more laissez-faire, pun intended, for that type of thing. To find apartments, so I live in the center of Lyon, which is the second or third biggest city in France. And an apartment, you would get a nice little room for a little apartment. I would say would be around 500 to 700 euros. That's like, it's kind of the same thing in the euro and the dollar right now, I think. Maybe like a 1% increase for the euro. The euro is, I think, a little stronger generally. I think it's only not too much. I think it's around 10% maybe. But yeah, but that's the price. I don't know exactly how it is in whatever country you're in, but that's the basic price. You can find it for cheaper. You can find it for more expensive depending on the quality you want. The other thing is that people in France are generally very kind to tourists, but still, I think the sort of... You will get assholes in every single country, but I feel that generally in France, they treat tourists a little less kindly than other countries. I've been in other countries, and if you don't speak the language, they really try to help you and everything like that. In France, I see it a lot less of the case. By all means, most people will try to help you, if you only speak English, and people generally know English, but it'll be a little tougher, I think, than in other countries. Not to say that all French people are assholes, but just a little bit more of the case, if you catch my drift. Metro public transportation, it works pretty well, but at the same token, cars and your own transportation, your own use of transportation will be a lot less effective in these countries. I was in Tucson for a little bit, and in there you can just take your car. You can go anywhere you want in the city, and you won't suffer many traffic jams. But in France, if you're in the city, the car is a lot less useful. Kind of think about it as New York, especially if you're planning to move, let's say, in like the long term. Car is not a great option. They plan to remove all gasoline cars in France by 2035. So it's a very anti-car society, and that can be good or bad depending on the person you are and how you like to approach life. The public transportation is not paradise either. You will find some schizophrenics, some homeless people, some not very kind people in the metro. Keep in mind, it's nothing crazy. People are not throwing shit, all the time, but there still will be that problem, that occasional, crackhead will be there. I think this is a problem in most countries in the world. I think the only country who doesn't have this significant problem is Asian countries, and mainly Japan and Korea. But I'm sure they have their own share of crackheads from time to time. The other problem, I think, in France is that you can expect, especially on the road, you can expect a lot of protests around workers' rights. Workers generally perform manifestations, and this can be a problem when you're planning to use the trains. The workers there will form unions and will protest against it. This again is good and bad. Some people think it's good because, it lets the workers take a little bit more control. Some people think it's bad because their train is not on time and their thing isn't working, right? Another thing generally about the French culture is that it is deep and rich, and it goes, and things like architecture, churches, streets are very, very old, and usually they're the most pristine and beautiful buildings are the oldest buildings. So prepare, if you go to Paris, in any big city, you will see those beautiful buildings. At the same token, in my consideration, everything that I've seen, everything that is new, that is created in France, at least on my perspective, generally is a lot more disgusting. You can sense it's a lot cheaper than I think the older stuff. That's kind of a case in point. I think that's kind of an example. That's kind of something you can say about every single country. I think generally the older stuff has lasted longer, has stayed there longer, and then the newer stuff needs some time to rust out before you get a sense if it is good quality. But you see a lot of cheap material in newer buildings. A lot of I think you can. This is one quote. This is one thing about the Emily in Paris show. I haven't watched it, but not everybody is this quirky, likable person. A lot of people are just the same as in your country. People, I think, generally do not share as much as in America, so not everybody's around this quirked up person. I saw this real once. Oh, everybody in Paris is this fashionista, always having the best clothes. I think we have good clothes. People dress pretty well in Paris, but not everybody is like that. The other point I want to make is about politics, and kind of about the culture of politics. And I think a lot of Americans go to France to escape that political seen. I think this might be one reason why you might be watching this video is because you don't like this Trump guy, you don't like this Trump fellow, and you want to go to a normal country. I just want to say that you will still have political aspects between every society. I think it's a little less in France. I think that's true. But at the same time, you will see a lot of people debating on the streets about what's against what right and what right. A lot of protest. They love to protest, the French. And you will still have that political aspect of daily life. It's kind of encoded, sort of like the American system. The American system, you have the right and the left. In France, you have like 13 different parties and everything like that, but you still, essentially, you have 3 parties. You have the Macron sort of center party. Then you have the right and far right. I will sort of consider them in the same sort of group. Yeah, and you have the leftist socialist, and leftist communist, but you can still sort of group that in that same sort of group of people. So still politics is hugely important in France, but not as much as in the US. The French regard towards American, at least from my perspective, is neutral. You will see some people who really like America and what it represents, and then a lot of other people will disregard it, will hate what it's done to the country, what it's done to other countries. So you'll have a mixed opinion about that. I hope I'm clear in my presentation about about France, and I hope I'm doing it justice. The other one, healthcare. Healthcare is a lot cheaper. It is considered a right and not just a thing you get while working. At the same time, it is not as perfect. I don't think doctors are as skilled as they are in the States. I think it's pretty clear which system is favorably viewed, but at the same time, you need to use the healthcare comes at a cost. That cost being high taxes. I think it's 35 to 40% in France, as opposed to, let's say, a cool, nice 15%, I think, in America. So you pay for your taxes, but I think you get what you're deserved. And I don't think the government is that efficient in France, but you still have health care, which is nice. You don't need to worry and stress if a medical emergency comes your way. And now is the controversial part of the video, and that is immigration and Muslim culture in France. And I'm not gonna be some grifter saying that France is a hellscape and that Sharia law is all over France, but I'm not gonna sugarcoat and say we live in a peaceful, harmonious society in France either. France has a huge Arab influence. This is due to some colonies in the past belonging to France. And some of these people from these colonies eventually are coming to France now. And that's the big hot button issue, around the world. The same in the States, same in the UK, same in Italy, same in all of these countries. And they're especially coming to France because of, like I said before, its social services. It's free healthcare, but not just free healthcare. France, is a very socialistic country. You get a lot from the government. There's something called La CAF, and you can get some money from that, if you're struggling. But that's beyond the point. I want to talk about you and everyday life. It's not, people are not going to harass you upon the street all the time. So don't be all afraid and everything like that. The beauty of France is still there. There's no denying that. But I think that when you imagine France sort of in your head as an American, you kind of imagine this very homogenous place with one fixed French culture. And I kind of want you to take that sort of out of your head, because there's true that there is that, but that's not life in France. I want you to imagine more of a sort of New York scene where you see people of various different cultures. It's it is turning into sort of a melting pot. At least that's from my experience. At the same time, me personally, as a guy, except for weirdos in the metro and weirdos, you know, like coming to me asking for stuff, I'd never had any problem. At the same time, I am about 6'1". Yes, I'm 6'1", by the way. No, I'm joking, but I am 6'1", tall, sort of. I am skinny, but not that skinny. I've never had any problems at the same time. If you're a woman and you live in France, please tell me if you have any problem. I heard a lot of horror stories about, you know, people getting like constantly asked their number everywhere they're going. This could just be the case for any woman, but apparently it is something noted in France. At the same time, if you live in a good neighborhood, I think it will be okay. But there are some bad neighborhoods in France, like there are some bad neighborhoods anywhere in the world, my friend. The village, on the other hand, I haven't really talked about the village. I was more in a city frame, but I've also lived in the village. Nothing really, I think. It's a general, it's normal like any other village. It's pretty together, and there shouldn't be any real problems. It's normally in the city where all these bad stuff happens. So hopefully I gave a good take about the immigration. If you disagree, everybody's allowed to disagree in life. I think it's a good thing. I want you to open up a discussion. I want us together, mano to mano, to open up something in the comments, and we can talk about it at length, ad nauseum, if you want. Or if not, you don't need to. But tell me your experience. If you're a woman in France, I shouldn't have many women watchers, but if you are, tell me how life is. If I got anything wrong, you know, from a male perspective, that might be different. That could help some people coming here. And thank you so much for watching. Have yourselves a good day. Have yourselves a good rest of your day. And hopefully I answered some of your questions about you coming to France. Keep in mind, there is still some amazing part. It's a beautiful, beautiful country personally for me, a guy who's into these sort of mysteries and isolated places. I like it here. There's a lot of cool shit to see. A lot of historical shit to see. If you're like adventuring, you're gonna love it here. There's a lot of cool shit to see that you don't see a lot about it in the media. Thank you so much for watching. Have yourselves a good day. Hopefully you enjoyed this nice little video I played to you, and hopefully you enjoyed this classical music. Thank you so much for watching. Have yourselves a good